The way we see our parents grieve, our grandparents grieve, it transfers onto us and how we grieve.
So for me, it's like, it's not just about getting over the grief. It's about utilizing your experience to be of service to other people in the world.
Serve.
Serve.
Serve with all these letters so powerful.
Thank you.
And as you were explaining your stories and your experiences with your clients, in my mind, you know what was going through my mind? Is my father.
Ah,
All those stories you gave that you had experience with your clients, my dad has experienced all three. And I remember his mom was really sick, and his dream was to always, always take care of her. Go back home and take care of her because nobody was taking care of her well.
uh-huh.
And he was planning, he was planning to go on early retirement. And then we're like, okay, we're going to go back home. We're all going to go on a family vacation and go see her. She passed away, and he did not handle it well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this: grief can cause sickness.
Yes.
Because right after she passed away, my dad got sick. And because he was stuck in grief and
Yes.
resentment,
Yes.
and he
Yes.
couldn't reframe, and he
Yeah.
couldn't find a different vision,
Right.
he didn't know that he was sick.
Ah.
For almost 3 whole years, he had cancer, and he did not know.
Oh.
He was so sick, could not use the bathroom, and had no idea because he was stuck in grief.
Yeah.
Now, him grieving caused him a tremendous sickness that he's still battling. And he went through chemo, and we went to the hospital right after he had surgery. And the first thing he was talking about was his mother, how she died, what he wasn't able to do for her, the resentment that was lurking all around him, his childhood, the things that he went through,
Yeah.
his trauma. And although he loved his mother, and she wasn't able to give him, certain things that children of today's day have access to. Schooling
Right.
wasn't accessible to him because he had to pay for it. His mom couldn't afford it. So
Right.
now he's grieving all those things, and he's grieving. He went through so much in life. When is he going to get a break? He wasn't able to take care of his mom.
Right.
Now she's gone. And
Right.
he says it. He says, the one thing I regret and that bothers me is the fact that I did not get to do what I wanted to for my mom and take care of her.
Mhm.
And he's carrying on that pain,
Right.
which is causing his sickness to get worse.
Yeah.
So as you were saying it, I'm thinking in my head, grief can cause sickness in our body,
You betcha.
in our
Yes.
minds. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it, and I'm listening to him, and I'm like, you know what? This is why I said breaking generational cycles is a lifestyle, because it goes with grief. The way we see our parents grieve, our grandparents grieve, it transfers onto us and how we grieve. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. And I'll give you a perfect example. One of my friends passed away. She was 52 years old.
Oh.
And I met her on the phone. We were friends for, oh my gosh, I think about 6 years before I saw her in person on the
Wow.
phone. We'd call
Wow.
and talk all the time. And she was planning. She's like, I'm going to retire now. I want to adopt kids because I never had kids. Went to the hospital and she found out she had cancer. It was a rare cancer.
Oh.
And she says to me, you know what? I got to know who God is, and I'm okay
Wow.
with leaving. She's like, I'm at
Wow.
peace. And I'll tell you the difference, because my background is Jamaican.
Mhm.
So I'm giving you these two different examples because it's all about generational. So when we talk about generational trauma, grief
Mhm.
is a generational trauma as well. Because when
Yes.
I went to her funeral, not one person cried, my friend. she's from Vietnamese. Not one person cried.
Is that,
Everybody,
yeah.
when I walked into the church, you felt peace. Everybody was at peace. They were just
Ah,
talking about the life that she lived, how spontaneous she was, adventurous. She lived a good life. She traveled. She had friends all over the world. Every country you can think of, she had friends.
wow.
And they were happy. They're like, she didn't even tell us. She still looked happy. And they're all like, they're at peace because she was at peace. Not one tear.
Mm,
That's the first film I ever went to, and I felt such peace going
nice.
home. And I'll give you a different example now. I'm from my background is Jamaican, and our funerals are more.
Yeah.
we,
There's
we,
there's a place for it all.
oh my gosh, everyone is crying and screaming, and they have this resentment, and they're angry. Oh, this person died. Why did they leave? Everyone's angry at each other, and they're fighting
Mm, mm,
instead of honoring the
right.
life that the person that
That
passed
person
away
had lived.
lived,
Yeah. Yeah.
and thinking about the fact that they're still watching you guys as a family, as a unit.
Yeah.
But it's generational, because this
Right.
is what we saw for so many generations. Every funeral I ever went to,
Right.
my
The cultural.
grandparents,
Yeah.
it's like a repeat. It's like everyone's screaming and crying
Yeah.
and mad because the person left. The person didn't tell us that they were sick. And so
Right.
when you talk about that, serve,
Yeah.
it is a process,
It is.
and everybody needs to serve and find people that they can love and hold and embrace them to help them go through serving, because it's not easy,
Yes. No.
but it's such an essential process that you have put into place for people to understand that it's okay to grieve.
Yes.
It is necessary for you to grieve, and it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to grieve, go through it.
Yep.
Because I find that when you allow yourself to go through your processes, you get to enjoy them. And when you get to that healing stage, you can look back and be like, "Oh my gosh, I did that, I went through this, and look at me now."
That's right.
When we're trying to rush through the healing process, we miss out on the things that we're supposed to learn to help us become
Yes.
the person we're supposed to become. So
That's
that
right.
serve, we need to start serving. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I know you said in the journey of healing from complex grief, how important is it to face our inner selves? What practices or tools do you suggest for peeling back the layers of self-deception?
I find that the most important thing is to develop a relationship with your body. And the other part is to develop a relationship or reconnect with your spirit if you've lost connection. I see our lives as bringing spirit into this human body. And this human body has its own agenda. And it wants to keep you alive. That's its programming. It's here to keep you alive. And sometimes this makes your life difficult because it has weird ideas about what's important to keep you alive.
Yeah.
And so the spirit who you really are, has to work with the body to reassure the body that it's safe and to use the body, because as spirit, we can't do anything in this three-dimensional world. We have to do it through this body. So the body and the spirit together form a unit in which you can make a difference in this world. You can serve other people. You can't do it by spirit alone, and your
Hmm.
body's not going to do it without the help of that higher self, that who you really are. So it's that bringing together of those two things, and that's how you make a difference.
You talk about the inner self, and I think a lot of us are still really trying to grasp what self-love looks like for ourselves, because we see all these cool emojis, and we see
Right,
everybody on
right,
social
right,
media
right.
with the cameras and what I'm doing for self-love. But I think self-love is tailored to ourselves.
Well, and it's pretty simple. It doesn't
And it's
have to be that complex. It's actually as simple as doing the things that uplift you and bring you joy. That's
Right.
it.
And
It's like,
and
stop doing the stuff that makes you miserable and
right.
do the
And
stuff that makes you happy.
I love that you said that because a lot of so we're social media filled right now, internet based. We go on the internet and we think, okay, what looks good for Michelle has to be good for me too. Michelle's eating at that fine restaurant and smiling and going shopping, I'm gonna do it too, all while sacrificing myself and my
Right,
pockets.
right.
So I like to say that self-love is based on, like you said, what makes us feel good, what brings us peace and joy on the inside, not on the outside. Because a lot of
Yes.
people, we demonstrate self-love based on the outside.
Well, and that's not it. To feel love, you have to feel it in your heart. And
In
the
your
only way
heart.
you can feel it in your heart is by doing stuff that just expands that feeling in your heart. I mean, you literally feel it in your heart. It's like it gets so big, it almost feels like it's going to burst. It's so
Yeah.
full of joy and happiness and contentment.
Mhm.
That's how you know, is when you feel great. If you're feeling unhappy, I mean, of course, you go through grief and that's part of the process. But you know what? Even when my mother died, I had experienced ecstasy. It was so cosmic to experience that emotion because I had repressed my emotions for most of my life. And I finally allowed myself to experience it. And it was ecstatic because at the same time I was losing her, I was connecting to what it means to be a human being
Mhm.
and to know that we all die and that facing death is one of the most powerful experiences that you can have in this life because it wakes you up to who you really are.
I agree. So, how would you say that self-love factors into complex grief?
It's part of the healing is because part of the healing is to find out who you really are, who you are authentically, and who you are authentically is all about what uplifts you. It's not like some sort of complex formula you have to figure out. It's very simple. It's like, what uplifts me? What makes me feel good? What brings me joy? And you do that on a daily basis, every day, and you will transform. You will look for, and you know what? It'll sometimes bring stuff that's a challenge because that's part of the process because you need to learn something else. So there is a poet, a Sufi poet named Rumi. Have you ever heard of Rumi?
No.
You should check him out. So he writes this poem called The Guest House. And he basically says you invite everybody in. And by everybody, he's meaning, yeah, it could be people, but everything that shows up in your life is a message from the divine, and something is to be learned. And that's tricky. A month ago, I fell down. I fell flat on my face. I hurt my knee and I hurt my hand. And I was pissed off because I hate to hurt myself. I hate to fall. I feel like such a stupid, klutz.
No.
But there was a lesson in that. So everything, it's like, okay, what is the universe? What is my spirit trying to teach me? Well, it's trying to teach me to slow down for one thing.
Don't rush, Michelle.
And pay attention. Stop doing things unconsciously. And I do things unconsciously when I am rushing, when I'm working and trying to do so many things that I
At
stop
once.
being in my body and present.
Right.
So welcome everything, the good and what you think is the bad, because it
Wow.
all in fact, we learn more from our mistakes than we learn from the things that we got right.
Right. That is very true. And you talk a lot about the importance of faith and the willingness in the journey towards healing. Can you share a personal story or an example that illustrates how the qualities have played a role in your own life or the lives of your clients?
The faith thing. So, like, I'm not necessarily a religious person, but I am totally committed to spirit and spiritual practices. My practice is not Zen, but I certainly, that Zen Buddhism stuff, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. But I come from a Sufi practice, which is a practice of, it's an ecstatic practice as opposed to a contemplative, which is why we do belly dancing, is we dance and we are joyous. So that is how I found myself. Was it helped me to discover myself as feminine and graceful, and it helps me to be in my body instead of pretending my body isn't here. So it creates this joining between the two. And this helps me to live more fully, because while I'm here, I'm in this body. So I need to find a way to connect with it. And so my spiritual practice is about connecting to my body. In fact, I teach 2 classes a week on Zoom that are Sufi classes that involve slow breathing and movement. What a way to go.
Yeah.
It just takes care of your body. It's like yoga, only, it's moving. It's moving yoga, and it's and it gets you really high. And when you're high, when you're in the moment, that's when you're connected to spirit. When you are totally present and in the moment, right here, right now. And that's what I love about these podcasts. Boy, does that put me in the moment.
I'm glad that you're loving it. You know, you said you're not super spiritual religious.
But right,
And
I was brought up as a Catholic,
yeah,
okay, as a child. And then I reached puberty, and then it didn't work for me anymore.
yeah. Which is
But
okay, because I feel like, people, I don't want to expand on it a lot, but when people hear people say, oh, they're not super religious, they think, okay, well, you don't have a faith base, but you do.
oh,
And
totally.
I think it's important when you do have that faith base and you allow people to speak freely and be open-minded to hear and understand, because everything is spiritual. The feeling in our body, the movement. So
Well,
it,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, it's like when you finally embrace that, you realize that everything has a potential for spiritual connection. It
Mhm.
isn't like, in some faith where it's only the preacher or the priest or whatever that has the connection to God. We all have connection to the divine.
Yeah.
And for me, that's where I get that's where I get all my inspiration, is when I connect, when I tap into that greater source. So
Mhm.
my belief is that we are, well, that we're all interconnected, but that we're also connected to more than just this world, that there's more, and there's sort of uh, glorious divine presence.
Yeah. We talked about abuse for a little bit,
Hmm.
and I tie in trauma and the grieving
Hmm.
all into one with the with abuse as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
How would you say the experiencing trauma, particularly abuse,
Hmm.
complicates the grieving process for individuals who have experienced abuse, any form of abuse?
So I have worked with some clients who have been abused, and more sexual abuse. But what happens is that as children, we try to survive, and we do whatever it is that we can do to survive.
Right.
And uh, when we're abused, we try and find a way to protect ourselves. And sometimes that means you fight back. And sometimes that means you become invisible. And sometimes it means that you become so super sensitive that you know when to leave the room because you need to survive. And sometimes these habits or these behaviors that we learn to survive in childhood interfere with our survival or our relationships later on, our ability to connect or to really love, because maybe you don't trust love because it was mixed up with abuse, and that becomes complicated. So that's we're here to become who we truly are. And it's always kind of like, as I said to somebody the other day, it's like we go through childhood and we develop all these barnacles that are attached to our body from the people that we've grown up with. And so our growth process is removing the barnacles so that we can find the true self underneath. And so there needs to be grief with abuse. And part of the problem with the abuse is the betrayal. There's huge betrayal in that. And because really as helpless, dependent children, we depend on our parents to take care of us. And when they fail at that, when they're abusive, that really affects our ability to trust. And so part of the barnacle removal for somebody who's been abused is to learn to love, not only themselves, but to learn to love other people and not to just always be in survival mode of what do I need to do to protect myself. Does that make sense?
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. You asked me if it made sense, and I
For
have to
you.
tell you that it makes sense for me because I was that abused child.
Yeah.
And I was that child that had the betrayal from, as a child when you go through, you said it was mostly sexual abuse, which is interesting because when I started the podcast, that's what it was surrounded about: children being sexually abused and neglected by parents.
Yeah.
And one of the things you do go through, you're right, is survival mode. But then you also expect that your parents are supposed to protect you, which means that even when you come out and you say, this is what I experienced and I was afraid to tell you because I was trying to survive on my own without having to burden you, when you already have the burdens that you speak out loud already that we are aware of. Because I think we forget that our kids are listening to everything and they see everything. So when a child hears their parents complain about money, about having to go to work, this and that, and then now you're going to add what you're going through as a child on top of them, you're afraid. So you now take on that burden on your own and you're trying to figure out ways, how am I going to get out of this situation? How can I fight back? I'm going to end it. I'm going to stop it. But then we experience that neglect where we're like, okay, well, these are our parents. They're supposed to be able to pick up on the signs and see that there's something wrong with me.
Right.
And then, for me, it was hard because when I came up, my mom outright told me, well, okay, it happened. If you tell, or if you go to the police station, you're not my daughter. So then I experienced that abandonment issues.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
don't have that relationship with her because, one, you left me when I was a baby back home, and then I met you again when I was 5. So that nurturing part of you I never had. And when I couldn't wait to meet her again when I was 5. I was excited to finally migrate to
Mm,
Canada and be with my
mm,
mom. And when I
mm.
did have my mom, it was okay. Now we have this relationship. We're dressing like twins. She's there for me. But then now, when I'm 6, you and my dad break up, and now you're with a new man who's now controlling the relationship between you and I.
Right.
So now I'm in, okay, I didn't really know you. Now I'm scared and I don't know who you are. Am I safe around you? And then when now I
Mm.
feel like, okay, fine, I'm going to open up and tell you what's been going on as a teenager, which are all pivotal times of my life. You abandoned me when I need you at the most time of my life.
Right.
So that healing process was hard, and I had to learn how to love myself so that I could love her and not hate her.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
when you brought up that, it was important for me because we don't realize how trauma can really riddle in someone from childhood all the way to adulthood and affect the
Oh, absolutely.
relationship. Because I went through that even with friends. It was probably about a few years ago, I finally learned to let go and start trusting people.
Right.
I And it's so funny because I said to a friend, I don't know where I got this from, but I do know where I got it from. I am the person that if something's going wrong and I know that you're not being a good friend and whatever, I'm easy to just distance myself
Hmm.
rather than try to figure it out and have a uncomfortable conversation, because uncomfortable
Right.
conversations are necessary for our growth. I'll just
Right.
distance myself, and I never had,
Right.
like, all my girlfriends would be like, "Oh my gosh, Janelle's such a great person," and but she just disappears. Like, her cutoff game is
She
strong.
just ghosted me.
But that's because of that
That's right.
relationship with my
Because of
mom,
that
and I was
early,
like,
yeah,
right. And if I couldn't trust my mom, then I can't trust any other woman. So
that's
it was
right.
hard for me. I would be everything to them, but I don't want them to be anything for me because I never had my mom do that for me.
Well, not only
So
that, but you're afraid to trust that they will be that for you, that they won't deceive you and betray you. And it's like, oh, I'd rather not even experience that than experience again the betrayal, because the
yeah,
betrayal was so horrific.
yeah. So when you talk about that betrayal, that was it for me, was not wanting to have to experience a betrayal with friendships or any relationship. I rather just, okay, I see a red flag.
Keep them. Yep.
Yep, keep them afar. But I had to heal. Like, I had to go through a deep healing process,
Yep.
and I had to do it silently on my own because I knew what I needed, and I had to seek it
Yes.
on the inside
Yeah.
and serve, like you said.
Yes,
so,
sir.
so I
Yeah.
wanted to also ask, what steps can someone take to break free from the cycle of trauma and grief that keeps them from feeling stagnant? Because I felt stagnant for a long time in my life. It was like I was repeating the same. I will tell you this, it was like I was repeating the same cycles in relationships, friends. I was attracting the same people in my life. And I started to question, I'm like, God, why am I repeat? Why do I keep attracting these people? Why? Like, they're all the same. And he's like, because you didn't heal. You didn't do the
Because you
work.
haven't learned the lesson
I
that you
haven't learned the
need to
lesson.
learn from
Mhm.
each of these people. And so the universe or spirit keeps on sending you until you finally learn what it is that you're supposed to learn.
Right.
And what can you do? My own experience is that you get help. You don't try and do it on your own. That you get somebody who's going to witness and guide you and hear you and be present with you, that you could actually learn through somebody who's experienced to trust. And that's the first step, is to be able to trust somebody. And you want to work with somebody who you can trust,
Yeah,
that, and if you ghost them for a while, they're still going to be there for you because they understand.
I understand. And that goes back to finding your person. And I think everybody needs to find their person, because not everybody's your person.
That, yes, well, once you yeah, everybody's your person, in that everybody has something to convey to you, to teach you
Right.
about yourself. Some are more challenging than others,
Yep.
but everybody has something that is valuable to you. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Everybody
what
has a
I would
lesson to learn.
say is, when you're in a relationship that's difficult, but you feel like there's something to learn, stay with it. Because if you just run away, you're just going to repeat it with somebody else. You might as
Right.
well just stay with this one and work it through.
And work it through. You're right. And I think that's a part of grieving too, is that we run away. It's easier to run away than to face the things that we need to face and work it through. Work through it together. Figure it out together.
Yep. Yep. Well, we think it's easier, but it isn't really, because, as I said, the universe is just going to keep on sending you the same thing
The
until you
same
get
thing
it.
over and over and over and over
Oh,
again.
oh, that's what I
Yeah.
was supposed to get. Okay, got it.
I didn't get it the first time, but I need to get it now because I don't want to end up
Yeah,
going into the
I don't want
same
to do this again,
situation.
please.
You have a book that you wrote.
I was in an anthology. Actually, I was in 3 anthologies, and I do need to write a book. I made it a film series, so that was my first. That was my healing process for losing my parents, was to do the film series. But I have a book in me that I do need to write, and that is on my
To-do
checklist,
list.
my to-do list, my checklist. And but I am in 2 books and 3 books, and one of them is called Step Into Your Brilliance. And the story that I tell in there is pretty much the story I told today about, growing up in a family and not feeling worthy and having to and doing all the wrong things for a long time until I woke up.
Yeah. And if there's a message that you can leave for women today in 2025, a changed generation, an evolving generation, Women's Month, what message would you want them to hear, receive, and carry with them?
That you matter, that every one of you matter, that you are here for a reason. And part of it is that you're all part of this amazing mix of people, but each and every one of you have something to contribute. And that contribution begins with being yourself. And it doesn't have to be this complicated, heavy duty, difficult thing. It's actually what you most want to do.
You matter. I matter. You matter. And you're essential. I love that. And if there's anyone that would love to reach out to you for coaching, just advice, or just to pull from you and you could be a voice for them, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, I do recommend that they go ahead and get that complex grief checklist. But if they want to cut to the shortcut, they can go and set up a free introductory conversation. And all they need to do is go to meetwithdrmichelle.com. And that's DR. You don't write out the whole doctor, but meetwithdrmichelle.com, and that will take you to my scheduler.
Okay. And do you have any upcoming projects that we can look out for, or anything that you want to share with us?
Not yet. I'm still doing tons of podcasts, but I will soon be providing a workshop around, a master class around this whole topic that I shared with you today, and helping people to understand how to apply those 5. Is it 5 or
Serve.
6?
SERVE, 5.
5.
Yeah.
Sorry. Those 5 steps to grief healing. So that I
Michelle,
will let you know. And when that happens, I'll let you know about that.
I'm going to keep an eye out for it because I would love to be a part of that workshop.
Awesome. I would love to have
Thank
you
you.
there. Jen,
Dr. Michelle,
been such a pleasure. What
it's been
fun.
an absolute honor to be in your presence and just feel at peace and just talk to you. It doesn't feel like an interview to me. It's like more of a conversation that's needed. And I feel like when people are comfortable having those conversations and being able to relate to us, it opens them
Yes.
more
More.
to want to
Yeah.
start their own journey towards embracing their grief,
Yes.
going through the grief, allowing themselves to cry, like you said, feel the
Yeah.
emotions,
Yeah.
and just be in the moment
Yeah.
so that they can heal
Yes.
and move past the grief. It was an absolute pleasure. I had so much fun. I have butterflies on the inside. I'm about to go and write down serve and share it with my friends and family because it's so important. We forget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life happens, but there's so much more to life than just staying stuck and stagnant. than
Yes.
being resentful.
Yes. Yes. And it's not easy. It takes perseverance, persistence, but it's totally worth it.
It is. Thank you so, 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 so much for joining me.
My pleasure, Jen. Thank you for inviting me.